You know what really drives a narcissist insane? It's not arguing with them. It's not proving them wrong. It's not even exposing them. No, what really makes them miserable is something far simpler, yet far more powerful. It's indifference. The moment you stop giving them the reaction they crave, the moment you stop playing their game, you become the one thing they can't handle. Irrelevant to them, and that is the ultimate power move. Narcissists are addicted to attention. They don't just like it, they need it. It's the oxygen they breathe. They thrive on knowing they can impact your emotions, whether that's making you feel amazing or making you feel worthless. They don't care which side of the emotional spectrum you fall on, as long as they are the reason for it. They feed off your reactions, your frustration, your tears, even your attempts to hold them accountable. Because every time you react, you're confirming something for them, that they still have control over you. That's why they poke, prod, provoke, because they need to see that you still care. That's their game. But here's the good news, you don't have to play. Imagine this. You're at a poker table, and they keep raising the stakes, waiting for you to match their energy. They want you to go all in, to emotionally invest, to keep responding. But what happens when you fold? What happens when you simply put your cards down and walk away? The game is over. They have nothing left to manipulate, nothing left to play with. And that right there is the moment they start to unravel. You see, most people think that standing up to a narcissist means confronting them, calling them out, exposing their lies. And while that might feel good in the moment, all it does is keep you locked in their cycle. Because now, instead of disengaging, you're giving them more of what they want, your focus, your energy, your mind space. But when you stop reacting, when their insults no longer get under your skin, when their silent treatment doesn't make you chase them, when their gaslighting doesn't make you question yourself, that's when they start to panic. Because they can't manipulate someone who simply doesn't care anymore. And I know what you might be thinking, but I do care. How do I just stop caring? The answer is, you don't stop caring. You shift where you place your care. Instead of caring about what they think, what they say, or how they feel, you care about you. You redirect all that energy that was once spent deciphering their mixed signals, trying to win their approval or proving yourself to them, and you invest it back into your growth, your happiness, your peace. When you stop feeding their ego, when you stop entertaining their chaos, they become desperate. And you'll see it happen. They'll try different tactics. They'll test you. First, they'll act confused, as if they don't understand why you're pulling away. Then they might turn on the charm. Suddenly, they're sweet, attentive, promising change. When that doesn't work, they'll try to guilt trip you, making you feel like the bad guy for setting boundaries. And when that fails, they'll resort to anger. They'll lash out, criticize, insult, anything to get a rise out of you. But you don't bite. You don't react. You let them spiral all on their own while you stay rooted in your own self-worth. And let's be real, this isn't easy. It takes discipline. It takes a commitment to yourself, because there will be moments when the urge to prove them wrong creeps in. Moments when their words hit a nerve. Moments when you feel like responding just to set the record straight. But every time you engage, you're feeding the cycle. Every time you respond, you're handing them exactly what they want, your attention. Instead, the real power move is to show, not tell. Show them, through your lack of response, that they are no longer the center of your universe. Show them, through your actions, that they do not have a say in your happiness. Show them, through your silence, that you refuse to let their games dictate your emotional well-being. Because nothing haunts a narcissist more than someone who no longer needs them. And this isn't about revenge. This isn't about making them suffer. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about choosing peace over chaos, freedom over control. It's about realizing that the best way to win against a narcissist is to simply stop playing their game. Because when you do that, you win every time. Narcissists thrive in environments where insecurity exists. It's like fuel to them. If they sense even a fraction of self-doubt, They'll magnify it, manipulate it, and use it to make you dependent on their validation. That's their game. And most people fall for it because they don't even realize it's happening. The moment you start questioning yourself, you've already stepped into their trap. They keep you in a loop, making you believe that you need them to feel worthy, that their approval is some kind of prize. But here's the truth. Confidence is the antidote. It kills their ability to control you. The thing about confidence is that it doesn't need permission. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't ask, am I good enough? It walks in the room knowing the answer. That's what narcissists hate, because they can't manipulate someone who isn't seeking their approval. They can't control someone who already knows their worth. When you carry yourself with confidence, you're no longer an easy target. You become someone they can't mold into what they need you to be. And that frustrates them beyond belief. A narcissist will do everything they can to shake your confidence because it's their only way in. They will undermine your accomplishments, making them seem small. They will downplay your strengths and highlight your weaknesses. They will make you feel like you're never quite enough. And the moment you start defending yourself, explaining yourself, proving yourself, they've won. Because now you're playing their game. Now you're reacting instead of standing firm in who you are. The real power move? Not engaging. Let them say what they want. Let them throw their little tests at you. You don't need to fight back. Just don't bite the bait. Let your confidence do the talking. One of the biggest lies people believe about confidence is that it's about arrogance, about being the loudest voice in the room. But real confidence isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about knowing that you don't need to. A narcissist will try to make you feel like you have to prove your worth to be loved, that you have to earn their affection. But love isn't a prize for good behavior. It's not something you should be working for. The second someone makes you feel like you have to perform to be accepted, recognize that for what it is, control. And when you know your value, you don't entertain it. You don't negotiate your self-worth. Imagine walking into a room full of people, and instead of worrying about whether they'll like you, you operate from the belief that you bring value, that your presence adds something, that you don't have to seek approval because you already approve of yourself. That energy alone is repellent to a narcissist because they don't know how to handle someone who isn't looking for their validation. They need someone to chase them, to seek their affection, to dance for their approval. But you're unshakable. And that's when the power dynamic shifts. A narcissist's worst nightmare is losing control. When they realize they can't make you feel small, when they see that you're not playing into their manipulation, they panic. They will try harder. They will switch tactics. They may even start acting like they're the victim, making you out to be the one who's changed. But don't mistake their desperation for sincerity. This isn't about them missing you. It's about them missing control. And that's why confidence is so important. Because it allows you to see through the game. It allows you to recognize manipulation when it happens, instead of getting pulled into the emotional chaos they create. It's not enough to just fake confidence either. You have to believe it. You have to know deep down that you are enough exactly as you are, that your worth isn't dependent on how someone else sees you. When you build that kind of unshakable confidence, you stop explaining yourself. You stop over-apologizing. You stop seeking validation in places that can't give it to you. And when a narcissist realizes that their approval means nothing to you, they lose all power. That's how you make them miserable, by showing them that you don't need them to feel good about yourself, that their validation was never the source of your worth to begin with. Here's the reality. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it strengthens with use. The more you show up for yourself, the more you set boundaries, the more you refuse to settle, the stronger it gets. And the stronger it gets, the less susceptible you become to people who try to break you down, because they will try. But when you are solid in yourself, they become nothing more than background noise. The ultimate way to disarm a narcissist, show them that they don't define you. Show them that you're thriving, not because of them, but despite them. That's what they hate. That's what they can't stand. And that's what sets you free. You know what narcissists absolutely can't stand? Boundaries. And I don't just mean the obvious kind, like when you tell them, hey, don't talk to me like that, or I won't tolerate this behavior. No, I'm talking about the deep, unwavering kind of boundaries. The ones that live in your energy, in your actions, in the way you carry yourself. Those are the ones that drive them mad. Because the truth is, narcissists don't respect lines in the sand. They see boundaries the way a child sees a challenge, something to test, something to push, something to manipulate until it disappears altogether. So when you set real boundaries, not just the ones you say out loud, but the ones you enforce without exception, you take away their power. And they hate that because their entire game, their whole strategy revolves around bending your world to fit their needs. They want you to accommodate them, adjust to them, make exceptions for them. And the second you stop doing that, they feel it. They feel the shift and they don't like it one bit. Here's the problem. Most people think that setting a boundary means simply telling someone, hey, this doesn't work for me. But that's just step one. If you don't back it up with action, if you don't have the resolve to follow through, your boundary is meaningless. And a narcissist knows it. They will push, they will test, they will wait for you to cave because they are experts at finding the cracks in your self-worth. They will manipulate, guilt trip, and gaslight you into thinking you're being unreasonable. And this is where most people break. They give in, they explain themselves, they over-rationalize their stance, and before they know it, their boundary is gone and the narcissist is back in control. But here's the thing, your power is in the follow-through. It's in the moments where you don't argue, where you don't explain, where you don't engage in a debate about why your boundary is valid. Because guess what? It doesn't need to be validated by them. You don't owe them an explanation for your standards. You don't need them to agree with you. And the moment you truly embody that mindset, they start losing their grip. The way a narcissist operates is simple. They feed off access. Access to your time, access to your emotions, access to your mind. The more access they have, the more they can manipulate. That's why when you start limiting that access, they panic. They don't know what to do when you stop picking up the phone, when you stop responding to every little provocation, when you stop justifying yourself. They thrive on engagement. And when you pull away, when you make it clear that their tactics don't work on you anymore, they feel powerless. And nothing makes a narcissist more miserable than feeling powerless. But let's be real, holding your boundaries is hard, especially when they start playing the victim. I don't understand why you're treating me like this, they'll say. You're being so cold. You used to care. And this is where most people fall into the trap because they don't want to be the bad guy. They don't want to feel like they're being cruel. But here's the truth. Protecting yourself is not cruelty. Saying no is not an attack. Setting a boundary is not an act of war. It's an act of self-respect. And anyone who makes you feel guilty for having self-respect is someone who benefited from your lack of it. The real test isn't in setting the boundary. It's in holding it when it's challenged. And a narcissist will challenge it over and over again. They will try different tactics. If guilt doesn't work, they'll switch to anger. If anger doesn't work, they'll act like they don't care. They'll try to make you feel like you're the one who's overreacting, who's being unreasonable. But this is where you have to stand firm. Because here's what happens when you do. At first, they'll push harder. They'll test you more than ever before. It will feel like they're trying to break you. And honestly, they are. But when they realize you're serious, that you're not playing their game anymore, something changes. They start to unravel. They start losing interest because you're no longer giving them what they need. And the moment they realize they can't control you, they start to look elsewhere. That's the irony of it all. The people who spend so much time trying to dominate and manipulate others are actually the weakest when faced with real strength. They can't handle someone who won't bend to them. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't engage in their power struggles. They live for reaction, for control, for access. And when you take those things away, they wither. They become desperate. They become frustrated. They become miserable. But that's not your problem. Your problem is making sure you don't let them back in. Because the moment they sense an opening, they'll try again. They'll come back with charm, with apologies, with promises that this time things will be different. They'll say what they know you want to hear. But if you've truly learned the lesson, you won't need their words anymore. You won't need their approval, their validation, their presence in your life to feel whole. And that's the real power move. Not just setting the boundary, not just holding the boundary, but realizing you never needed their permission to have one in the first place. Because the second you stop needing their approval is the second they lose all control over you. Narcissists operate on an emotional battlefield. They don't fight with facts, logic, or reason. They fight with manipulation, guilt, and confusion. And the moment you start engaging with them emotionally, you've already lost. You've stepped into their arena where they know exactly how to push your buttons, exactly how to make you question yourself, and exactly how to make you feel like the one at fault. But here's the secret. They can't handle logic. They hate it because logic dismantles their power. It removes the smoke and mirrors, the illusions they've carefully crafted to keep you under their control. And when you lead with reason instead of emotion, their entire game falls apart. See, a narcissist thrives on making you react. They want you to get defensive. They want you to explain yourself, to justify your feelings, to argue with them in a way that keeps you emotionally invested. They don't care about the truth. They care about control. And that's why they gaslight. That's why they twist words. That's why they shift blame. Because if they can keep you questioning yourself, if they can keep you on edge, they win. But the moment you stop playing that game, the moment you step back and say, I don't need to prove myself to you, they start to lose their grip. Imagine this. You bring up an issue, a completely valid concern, and instead of addressing it, they turn it around on you. Suddenly you're the problem. Suddenly you're too sensitive or overreacting. Sound familiar? That's because a narcissist will never take responsibility. They deflect. They make everything about you, about your reactions, about your supposed flaws. And the mistake most people make, they try to explain. They try to clarify. They try to make the narcissist see reason. But that's the trap. A narcissist isn't looking for clarity. They're looking for control. So what do? You stop feeding the fire. You stop explaining yourself to someone who has no intention of understanding you. When they try to gaslight you, instead of arguing, you simply say, that's not my reality. When they try to twist your words, you don't defend. You don't fight back with emotion. You calmly state, I'm not engaging in this conversation if it's not going to be productive. And then, this is the key, you walk away. You refuse to be dragged into their chaos. You refuse to let them dictate the energy of the conversation. And that right there, that is what makes them miserable. A narcissist thrives in a world of emotional chaos. They want reactions. They want drama. They want to see you frustrated, angry, desperate for them to understand you. But when you refuse to give them that, when you meet them with rationality, with calm detachment, they don't know what to do. They get flustered. They get irritated because suddenly the game isn't fun anymore. Suddenly they're not in control. And nothing makes them more miserable than losing control. Think about how they operate. They create situations that force you to react emotionally. Maybe they suddenly withdraw affection, making you wonder what you did wrong. Maybe they say something cruel, then claim they were just joking, making you question if you're being too sensitive. Maybe they bring up something from the past just to see how you respond. But if you don't react, if you keep your composure, if you recognize the game for what it is, they lose their power over you. It's like trying to play chess with someone who refuses to move their pieces. There's no game to play. There's no battle to win. And for a narcissist, that is unbearable. You might be wondering, but what if they push hard? What if they escalate? And yes, sometimes they will. When a narcissist realizes they're losing control, they often double down. They might try to guilt trip you, provoke you, or even play the victim. They might suddenly start being overly kind, love-bombing you with affection just to pull you back in, but you have to stay firm because the moment you let them pull you back in, you're back in the cycle. you're back in their web. And they know it. The power comes in recognizing the pattern and breaking it. Recognizing that you don't have to justify your feelings to someone who refuses to acknowledge them. Recognizing that walking away doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've won. Because the true victory isn't proving them wrong. It's proving to yourself that you don't need their validation. You don't need them to see your worth. You don't need their approval to move forward. A narcissist's worst nightmare isn't being yelled at. It isn't even being confronted. It's being met with calm, unwavering certainty. It's seeing you completely unbothered by their mind games. It's realizing that no matter what they say, no matter what they do, they no longer have the power to affect you. That is what makes them miserable. And that is what sets you free. There's something incredibly powerful about thriving after someone who thought they had control over you. Narcissists operate under the assumption that they're irreplaceable, that they are the gravitational force in your world, keeping everything in orbit. The moment you break free from that gravitational pull and start soaring on your own, they begin to unravel. See, a narcissist doesn't just want your attention, they want your dependence. They want to feel like you need them, that your happiness, your sense of self-worth, your entire world somehow revolves around them. The idea that you could actually be happier, more fulfilled, and more at peace without them. That's their worst nightmare. Because, in their mind, they were the best thing that ever happened to you. And you proving otherwise shakes the very foundation of their ego. The mistake so many people make when dealing with a narcissist is thinking that the best revenge is directly proving a point to them. They want to show them how strong they are, how unaffected they are, how much they've moved on. But the truth is, the more you try to prove something to them, the more you're still giving them real estate in your mind. And they can sense it. Even if it's through anger, even if it's through trying to show them how much better you're doing, they still feel like they're a part of your story. The real power move? Stop making them part of your narrative at all. When you truly start thriving without them, it's not about grand gestures. It's not about posting pictures that scream, "Look how happy I am now." It's not about making sure they hear through the grapevine that you're doing well. It's about shifting your focus so completely onto your own growth, your own joy, your own fulfillment, that their existence becomes irrelevant to you. That's the part that destroys them, because a narcissist needs to feel important. They need to feel like they matter in your life. And when you show them through your actions, not through forced displays, that they don't, it eats them alive. One of the biggest mistakes people make after dealing with a narcissist is waiting for them to acknowledge their progress. They want the narcissist to see that they've changed, that they've grown, that they're doing amazing things. But waiting for that validation is like waiting for a storm to apologize for ruining your day. It's never going to happen. And if you need that recognition, then you're still letting them have power over you. The truth is, they'll probably never admit you're doing better. In fact, they'll likely downplay it, dismiss it, or even try to sabotage it, because in their mind, they can't allow themselves to believe that you're thriving without them. That would mean they were never as significant as they wanted to be. The real measure of moving on isn't about making them see your success. It's about getting to a place where you genuinely don't care if they do or not. That's the real win. That's when you've taken back control. When you stop looking back, when you stop checking up on them, when you stop secretly hoping they see how well you're doing, because by then their opinion has lost all value to you. And that's what makes them miserable, because they need to be relevant. They need to feel like they're still lingering in your thoughts, like they still have some kind of grip on your emotions. The moment you detach completely, they lose. And here's the beautiful part. Thriving without them isn't just about making them miserable. It's about making yourself truly happy. It's about finally giving yourself all the things they never could. The respect, the peace, the self-love. It's about building a life that doesn't just look good from the outside, but actually feels good from the inside. A life where you're not trying to prove anything to anyone but yourself. When you shift your focus away from them and onto you, everything changes. You start investing in yourself, in your passions, in your relationships that actually bring value to your life. You start recognizing your worth in a way that no longer seeks external validation. You stop replaying the past and start embracing the future with excitement instead of fear. And here's the best part. You become untouchable, because once you've built that kind of inner strength, no narcissist, no manipulator, no toxic person can ever hold power over you again. You've outgrown their game entirely. And there's nothing that makes them more miserable than realizing they never really had you in the first place. So if you truly want to make a narcissist miserable, stop worrying about them altogether. Let them sit in their own mess while you go and build something extraordinary. Because the moment you start living a life that's genuinely fulfilling, their existence stops being relevant. And that's the ultimate freedom. You know what narcissists are really good at? Keeping you stuck, keeping you hooked on the idea that one day they're going to give you that closure you've been waiting for. That one day they're going to sit down, look you in the eye, and admit it all. Admit that they were wrong, that they mistreated you, that they took you for granted. You play it over and over in your head, imagining that moment, thinking, if I could just get that apology, if I could just get them to see what they did, I could finally move on. But here's the problem. That day is never coming. Narcissists don't give closure because closure means accountability. And accountability is the one thing they avoid at all costs. They're not interested in giving you peace. They're interested in keeping you in pieces. Because as long as you're searching for answers, as long as you're analyzing the past, as long as you're replaying every conversation, trying to make sense of it, guess what? You're still emotionally invested. You're still in their world. And they love that. They love the idea that even when they're not around, they're still occupying space in your mind, that they can still pull your strings without lifting a finger. That's power to them. And if you let them, they'll keep you in that cycle indefinitely. The game never ends because they never give you a final scene, never wrap things up with a neat little bow. Instead, they leave things messy, unresolved, full of mixed signals and half-truths. They keep you wondering, did I overreact? Was it really that bad? Maybe if I had done something differently, they would have changed. That's how they keep you on the hook. And the more time you spend waiting for them to give you an ending, the more power they have over you. Because here's the truth. The only person who can give you closure is you. It doesn't come from them. It comes from a decision you make. A decision that says, I don't need your permission to move on. I don't need your apology to heal. I don't need your explanation to understand my worth. That's a powerful moment because it's the moment you take back control. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to free you and you realize you were never trapped to begin with. You were just holding on to the idea that this person owed you something, that they owed you clarity, honesty, remorse. But they don't, because people who truly care about you don't leave you desperate for closure. They don't leave things messy. They don't play games with your peace of mind. You want to know what drives a narcissist crazy? It's not when you scream at them. It's not when you tell them how much they hurt you. It's not even when you try to make them see the truth. What drives them crazy is when you stop playing their game, when you stop needing their validation, when you stop showing up to the emotional tug of war, when you simply let go and walk away, not with anger, not with resentment, but with indifference. When you make the quiet, powerful decision that says, I don't need anything from you anymore. That's the moment they lose. Because a narcissist thrives on control. They feed on your emotions, your reactions, your need for answers. But the second you detach, the second you stop needing them to acknowledge what they did, you starve them of the very thing they rely on. You cut the cord. You stop giving them free rent in your mind. And you know what happens next? You start getting your life back. You start waking up without that heavy feeling in your chest. You stop checking your phone, hoping for that text. You stop writing messages you never send. You stop looking for signs that they still care. You stop hoping that maybe, just maybe they'll finally wake up and realize what they lost. Because by then, you've already realized something far more important. You never really lost them. They lost you. And not just the idea of you. Not just the version of you that stayed up late crying over them. Not just the version of you that made excuses for their behavior or tried to be what they needed or twisted yourself into 1,000 shapes just to keep them happy. No, they lost the best version of you. The version that is strong, self-assured and whole. The version that doesn't wait for permission to be free. The version that understands that closure is not something someone else gives you. It's something you decide for yourself. You don't need a grand finale. You don't need the apology that will never come. You don't need the answers that won't change anything. What you need is the decision to stop looking for closure in places that only keep you stuck. And once you make that decision, once you truly step into it, you'll realize something amazing. You're already free. And that, more than anything, is what they hate the most.